here. I had the opportunity in August to visit a new medium icebreaker in Finland. They wanted to lease it to the United States. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case might be, it's a medium and doesn't serve the purposes that we have, and certainly doesn't meet the military requirements that all of our icebreakers or polar security cutters must have. So, but it's brand new. Had been commissioned less than a year, and so there is all the technology that would be used for a heavy icebreaker is known to exist. The application of that technology into the design, as I understand it, is well underway. Everything from the various propulsion systems and the like. So yes, we do know we do know that it can be done, and it's done recently. It ultimately is going to come down to money here, and I'm making a plea to my colleagues here as we go into this issue of the omnibus. The question will be before us whether we move forward with a icebreaker or polar security, and call it what you want, polar security cutter. It is literally on the line now. If we do not fund, or do not accept the Senate version, which has $750 million in it for the first icebreaker, polar security cutter, this thing will be delayed and Ms. Mack will be correct. I want her to be really, really wrong. And it's up to us. And so I'm making this plea to all of us that we make this an issue to our various caucuses, to our various leadership, that it's now or this thing's going to get pushed back. And Mr. Graves' problem about the interim will happen. It will happen. The Polar Star is not going to survive much longer. We did pass a piece of legislation that is useful in forcing the Coast Guard to develop a strategy, but that strategy is dependent upon the steel and the vacuum tubes and other things that are in this ancient ship being able to be replaced, which maybe they can, maybe they can't. But there could very well be the problem that Mr. Graves cited. There's so many different pieces here. I want to thank the witnesses. You've laid it out. There's a serious issue on the mariners. We talked briefly about the brown water Navy, or the brown water merchant system. The same thing applies on the blue water. We need to do that. Ultimately, it comes down to vessels. Are the vessels going to be available? We can make them available by adopting strategies. As I said, there's a, what shall we call it? Presently, we have a piece of legislation that would create opportunities. Energizing the American Shipbuilding Act, H.R. 5893, of which some of us are on, and there's a Senate version of the same. And so it's not going to pass this year, but we ought to make that a priority for next year to address all the problems that have been appropriately laid out before us. Mr. Mast, I know you're going to hopefully stay with this committee, and if you're the ranking member, all to the better, and we'll see what happens on our side. But this is really, really important for every reason, and I'll let it go at that. Thank you for the opportunity to come back a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. I'm going to recognize myself for a few more minutes here. I just had a question again for Admiral Haycock and also for Mr.